Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, I make trendy and fun crochet tutorials twice a week. If you haven't already, smash that like button, drop a comment down below, and subscribe to join in on the fun. In today's tutorial, we're making a basket weave tank top. One can never have too many tanks, and what's better than a tank top with texture? Can't think of many. Speaking of, if you're interested in many things you can create with crochet, you are in the right place. We have hundreds of crochet tutorials and patterns with even more dropping twice weekly, so consider clicking the bell to subscribe and you'll never miss an upload. Also, do me a huge favor and give this video a big thumbs up if you like it, or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it's a great way to show support so I can keep putting out free tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday. Now, it's time to get on the show, so without further ado. For this project, any category 4 yarn will work, but I used a total of 220 grams of yarn. That's 500 yards if you're stateside. As for tools, a 5mm hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount off any $9.99 plus order, and enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us a bad habit that you have. Mine would have to be that I crack my knuckles. Details for the giveaway down below. We're using 4 stitches for this project, and they'll be as follows. Chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, and double crochet. This tutorial is made for a size small. You can adjust it for your size, and we explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting this top started, we're all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Then we're all going to grab our 5mm hook and start off by making a chain that is in multiples of 6 that starts 1 inch underneath our underarm down to our underbust, so roughly where an underwire would be. I need roughly 4 inches or 10 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 18. Now that we have our chain, we're all going to block off that last chain and do an additional 2 chains. That is going to be the same for every size. Those 2 chains counts as our base chain. Then from here, block off those 2 chains and do a chain 2. This chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. Then we're going to put 1 half double crochet into every chain and an increase into the last. So yarn over and into that chain that we blocked off, or the 3rd chain from our hook. Bring our hook down into that chain. Yarn over, pull through. Yarn over, pull through 3. From here, continue with 1 half double crochet into every chain, leaving the last one. We've made our way down with our row 1 and leaving that last chain. Into that last chain, we're all going to do an increase of 4 half double crochets. So yarn over. Into that last chain, insert with our first half double, with our second, with our third, and with our 4th half double. We're at the end of our row 1, and we should all have a total of 3 more stitches than chains that we made. Now what we're all going to do from here is chain 2 and flip and get started on our basket weave row. So getting started on our row 2 for everyone, we're all going to start with 1 half double crochet into that first stitch. Then working into the increase, we're going to be putting 1 front post double crochet into the first 3 stitches. So yarn over. We're going to find the second half double crochet from our previous row, because the half double crochet that we just did will count as that edge half double crochet. And working into the increase may be a little bit tricky, so you may need to separate your stitches a little bit. But finding that second half double crochet, we're going to insert our hook underneath the body, through the other side, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. That is our first front post double crochet completed. Again, yarn over. Into that next stitch, insert your hook underneath the body of that stitch and through the other side, pull through 2, pull through 2, and for the basket weave stitch, our stitches are worked in sets of 3, so we have 1 more left to do. Yarn over. Bring our hook underneath our work, underneath the body of that following stitch and through the other side, pull through 2, pull through 2. Now we should all have a total of 4 stitches so far, which is our first half double and 3 front post doubles. Now we're going to be doing 3 back post doubles, so yarn over. We're now going to bring our hook underneath our work. So bring our hook underneath and over the body of that next half double crochet that we have. So underneath, in through that gap, just like that, over the body of that next half double and through the other side, pull through, then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That's our first back post double. Let's do that again. Yarn over, bring our hook down and underneath our work, up through that next gap, over the body of that next half double through the other side, then yarn over, pull through, then yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. Remember, they're worked in sets of 3, so we have one more left to do. Yarn over, bring our hook underneath our work, up into that gap, over the next body of that stitch, pull through, then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. From here, we're going to continue to alternate between 3 front post doubles and 3 back post doubles till we all have 1 stitch left. Let's just do the next 6 stitches together. So yarn over, underneath the body of that next available stitch, through the other side with our first front post double. Repeat for our second front post double into that next available stitch, and into that next stitch with our third front post double. Now we're going to be doing 3 back posts. So yarn over, bring your hook underneath our work, up through that next gap, over the body of that next stitch, pull through, then pull through 2 for our first back post. We have 2 more left to do. So over, pull through 2, and 1 more, up into that gap, over the body of that next stitch, pull through 2. Continue to repeat our 6 previous stitches till we have 1 stitch left. We are back and we have made our way all the way down with our row 2. We should all have just 1 stitch left. What we're going to do at the end of every row is just put 1 half double crochet into that last stitch just to make sure that we have a blunt end. Our row 2 is now complete. Now let's get started on our row 3. So chain 2 and flip. And for the basket weave stitches, it is going to be a 4-row repeat. We are not going to be repeating our row 1, which is only a half double crochet row. We just completed our first row in our 4-row repeat, and we're about to get started on our second. So when it comes to doing every odd number row, we are always going to be extending our previous row stitches. So we're always going to start our basket weave row off with a half double crochet, no matter what row we're working on. Then from here, like I said, we are going to be extending our previous row stitches. So since this looks like 3 back post double crochets, I will be doing 3 back posts, but if yours look like 3 front posts, you will be doing 3 front posts. So just to do my first few stitches together, yarn over, bring our hook down underneath that first post stitch, not underneath that first stitch, because remember that half double crochet counts as that edge stitch. So into that first post stitch with my back post double crochet. And remember, they're still worked in sets of 3, so here's my second back post double. And here is my third back post double. Then my next set of stitches look like 3 front posts, so I will be doing 3 front posts. But if yours look like 3 back posts, you'll be doing 3 back posts. From here, we're just going to continue to extend our previous row stitches till we have 1 stitch left. We've made our way down and our row 3 is nearly complete. We should all just have 1 stitch left. Now we are going to be increasing at the end of every odd number row, pretty much the same way that we ended off our row 1. So into the last stitch of our row 3, we're all going to do an increase of 4 half double crochets. So yarn over into that last stitch with 1 half double, with our second half double, with our third half double and fourth half double, all into that same last stitch. Now our row 3 is complete and we should all have 3 more stitches than our previous row. Now from here, every even number row, we're going to get started with a chain 2 and flip. And like I said in our previous clip, every row, no matter which one we're working on, is always going to start with 1 half double crochet into the first stitch. Now every even number row is not going to have any increases or decreases into it, but whenever we're doing our even number row, we want to make sure that we're doing the opposite from what our previous row stitches look like. But since we're getting started working into our increase first, we're going to look at the last set of stitches that we have right before our increase from our previous row and do the same set of stitches, so that the next set of stitches can be the opposite of what this looks like. So I'll show you guys how to do that. So taking a look at my last set of stitches, mine look like 3 front post double crochets. So into my increase, I will be doing 3 front post double crochets so that when I do my next set of stitches, it'll be 3 back post double crochets. So to get that started, I'm going to yarn over and find the second half double crochet into my increase, remembering not that edge because this half double crochet counts as that edge stitch. So I'm just going to separate my work, find that second half double, and insert my hook underneath and through the other side with my first front post double, into that next stitch with another front post double, and then into the stitch right after that with another front post double crochet. Now so far for the row, we should all have a total of 4 stitches because that half double and those 3 front post doubles for me. Now my next set of stitches, since we are doing the opposite from what our previous row stitches look like, will be 3 back post, and that's perfect for me because my next 3 set of stitches look like 3 front post. So just to do mine together, yarn over into that next post stitch with a back post, next stitch with my second back post, next stitch with my third back post. Then right after that, my next set of stitches look like 3 back posts, so I'll be doing 3 front posts, and I will continue to do the opposite from what our previous row stitches look like till we all have 1 stitch left. We've made our way all the way down to the end of our row 4, leaving that last stitch, and at the end of every even number row, since we aren't increasing along the bottom, just 1 half double crochet into that last stitch. Now let's get started on our row 5, or the 4th row in our 4-row repeat, so chain 2 and flip. Now like I said in one of our previous clips, for this pattern, whenever we're doing an odd number row, we're just going to be extending our previous row stitches, and the row is going to end with an increase. So what we're going to do is take a look at the last set of stitches from our previous row. Mine looked like 3 front posts, so since we're extending our previous row stitches, I will be doing 3 front posts. And my next set of stitches look like 3 back posts, so I'll be doing 3 back posts into there as well. And just continue to extend our previous row stitches till we all have 1 stitch left. We are now at the end of our row 5. Like I said, at the end of every odd number row, we're all going to close it off with an increase of 4 half doubles. So yarn over into the last stitch with 1, same last stitch with a second, same last stitch with a third, same last stitch with a 4th half double crochet. We should all have 3 more stitches than our previous row. Now from here, we all should have just completed our first 5 rows together. What we're going to do from here is continue to repeat our 4 previous rows until this increase portion can touch the base of our neck. Now we do want to make sure that this tail end is still staying roughly 1 inch underneath our underarms so that our armhole doesn't get too tight or too loose. But we're just going to continue to do that until this can touch the base of our neck, and it must end right after an odd number row. We are back and my underarm portion is complete. I have a total of 19 rows and this width is roughly 6 inches or 15 centimeters. Now from here we're going to do a few neckline rows, and that isn't going to have any increases or decreases, so that's going to be fairly simple. So to get started on the following row, we're all going to chain 2 and flip. Now since this row is an even number row for everyone, we're going to be doing the opposite from what our previous row stitches look like. So our row is still going to start with just 1 half double crochet. Then just like our previous row, since we're working into the increase, we're going to take a look at that last set of stitches that we have right before the increase. This is 3 front posts, so I'll be doing 3 front posts into my increase. And now that I have my 3 front posts, I'm going to continue to do the opposite from what our previous row stitches look like, making our way all the way down. But before we move on, we do want to make sure that we're inserting a stitch marker into the top of this row, just so we know where the blunt portion of our neckline starts. Continue to finish up this row, making sure we're doing the opposite from what our previous row stitches look like, and the last stitch in the row should be a half double crochet still, because the bottom does still need to be blunt. We have just completed our first neckline row. We put 1 half double crochet into that last stitch. We should have the same amount of stitches as our previous row. Then our following row is going to be an odd number row, so same rules apply. We're going to chain 2, flip our work. Start the row off with 1 half double crochet into the first stitch. Then extend our previous row stitches, making our way all the way down. Since this is a neckline, we don't have to close off every odd number row with an increase, so just put 1 half double crochet into the end of the row. Then just continue to do our 4-row repeat with no increases and no decreases until we have a portion that can reach across our chest, and I'll meet you guys back right after an odd number row, and then we can get started on the other underarm portion together. So we are back and we have just completed the width of our neckline. I now have a total of 25 rows. My width is roughly 8 inches or 20 centimeters. Now we're going to do the decrease side of our underarm. So since we all should have ended along the top, we're all going to chain 2 and flip our work. But right before we do that, we want to make sure that we're inserting a stitch marker into the top of that last neckline row, just so we know where the neckline starts and ends. Now when it comes to doing the decreases, we're now going to be decreasing at the beginning of every even number row. And all that's going to be is a decrease of 4 double crochets. So yarn over into that first stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through, next stitch, pull through, and also next stitch, pull through for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops on our hook. From here we're going to yarn over, pull through the first 5, leaving us with 2 loops on our hook, then yarn over, pull through 2, and that is our decrease of 4 double crochets. Now that decrease basically should have taken up our first half double crochet that we've typically been doing and that first set of post stitches. So all we're going to do from here is continue to do the rest of our post stitches per usual. So since this is an even number row, we're going to be doing the opposite from what our previous row's stitches look like. So since my first set of stitches look like back post, I will now be doing 3 front posts, but if yours look like 3 front posts, you will be doing 3 back posts. So just to do the first one, this is my first front post, and they're still worked in sets of 3, so I'll be doing 2 more front posts. Then my next set of stitches for me will be 3 back posts, and just continue to do the opposite from what our previous row stitches look like to reach the end of the row, closing off the row with a half double crochet still. So our first decrease underarm row is complete. Now we're going to do our following row, which is our odd number row, and for the odd number rows for this portion, we aren't going to do any increases or decreases, so chain 2 and flip. Just like the other side, start with 1 half double crochet, and since this is an odd number row, we are going to be extending our previous row stitches. So as an example, my first set of stitches look like 3 back posts. I will be doing 3 back posts, but if yours look like 3 front, you'll be doing 3 front. Continue this to reach the end of the row, closing off the row with a half double crochet. So we are back. Our second underarm row is complete. From here, it's just going to be a repeat of our 2 previous rows, and just as a refresher, every even number row is going to start with a decrease of 4 double crochets. Then we're going to do the opposite from what our previous row stitches look like, closing off the row with a half double. Then every odd number row is going to start with a half double. Then just extend our previous row stitches, making our way all the way down, closing off the row with 1 half double crochet. So every even number row, which is our decreased row, should have 3 less stitches than our previous row, and every odd number row should have the same amount of stitches as our previous row. Continue to repeat those 2 rows until we have the same amount of underarm rows that we started this piece off with. Once we have that, do a chain up of 1 and cut. So we are back. We have just completed the entirety of our front panel. Now I have a total of 44 rows. My width is roughly 13.5 inches or 34 centimeters. And once we have this one completed, we're going to be making one more panel that is exactly the same. Now once we have the second panel completed, we can get started on seaming it together. So go ahead and place them on top of each other. So seaming this together, we're all going to insert our hook into the bottom corner stitch of both the front and the back panel. We are going to pull through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Then just do a single crochet seam. So finding that first stitch into the front panel, we're going to insert, first stitch into the back panel, insert, and single crochet everything together. Again, next stitch, insert into that stitch in the front panel, next stitch into the back panel, and single crochet, and that's it. Continue doing this so we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and repeat on the other side. Alright, so we are back. We're now going to get started on our strap. So first things first, we're going to make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up. Then insert our hook into the side row that we have that's nearest to our stitch marker side row, not into that stitch marker side row. And we're going to start with a single crochet row along our armhole. So first things first, we're going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. And all we're going to do is put 2 single crochets into every side row till we reach our side seam. So into my first side row, this is mine right here. That chain 1 didn't count as a stitch, that was just to connect. I'm going to insert with 1 single into that same top loop with a second single crochet. This is my next side row. I'm going to find that top loop and insert with 2 single crochets, and that's pretty much it. We're going to continue doing this, making our way all the way down, and I'll meet you back when we're worked into our last side row before our side seam. So we've made our way all the way down to our side seam. But once we have the single crochet portion completed, we're all going to chain 1, going over our side seam and make sure we're inserting a stitch marker into the top of that chain one. Then we're going to repeat the same thing on the other side. So just working our way back up, 2 single crochets into every side row until we're worked into our last side row that we have. That's right before our stitch marker side row. Once we do make our way all the way up, do a chain up of 1 and cut. So we are back. Our single crochet row is complete, so I did do a chain up of 1 and cut. Now from here we're going to get started on the underarm detail that also doubles as our strap. So first things first, we're going to insert our hook into the chain 1 space that we made that has our stitch marker into it. Then we're all going to make a chain the height that we'd like for this underarm portion to be. That is also our strap. So I'd like mine to be just about 1 inch or 2 centimeters. So I'm going to insert my yarn onto my hook and make a chain 6. Now that we have our chain, we're going to block off that last chain and do a chain 2. That chain 2 doesn't actually count as a stitch. That's our turning chain. Then put 1/2 double crochet into every chain. So just to do the first one, yarn over into that chain that we blocked off, or the third chain from our hook, with our first 1/2 double crochet, and put 1/2 double crochet into every chain. Our first row is completed. Now we're going to connect it into the base. So what we're going to do is start by counting up the next 2 available stitches. So there's 1 and there's 2. Into that second stitch into the base, we're going to insert with a slip stitch. Now that slip stitch doesn't actually count as a stitch. That's just to connect. Now from here we do need to work our way up to the following row, so we're going to slip stitch up the following 2 stitches into the base as well. None of those slip stitches into the base count as a stitch, so there's 1, there's a second, from there flip our work. Now put 1 back loop 1/2 double crochet into every stitch, making sure we're not working into any of those slip stitches into the base. So yarn over, into the last stitch from our previous row, insert with 1 back loop 1/2 double, and continue with 1 back loop 1/2 double till we reach the end of the row. Then chain 2, flip our work, and 1 back loop 1/2 double into every stitch again, and I'll meet you back at the end of our row 3. We are back. We're now ready to connect our row 3, and it's going to be done the same way as our previous row. So slip stitch into that second stitch into the base. Still doesn't count as a stitch. Then since we're here, just to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch up the following 2 stitches into the base, flip our work, and 1 back loop 1/2 double into every stitch, and I'll meet you guys back, repeating these 2 previous rows with no increases and no decreases till we don't have any more stitches left. So we're back, and we just made our way all the way up with our underarm portion, and we worked into our last stitch. Now from here, we're going to continue to do our back loop 1/2 double crochet rows worked off the piece now with no increases and no decreases until we have a strap that can reach up and over our shoulder to reach the top corner stitch on the other side. Now 2 really quick tips. This strap that we're about to do, as you guys can see, I already have mine completed, is going to do 2 things. It's going to form our neck hole and also our armhole at the same time. So this may have to be a little bit of testing, but we do want to make sure that we're making a neck hole that's big enough to fit around our head, but also an armhole that isn't too tight or too loose, because we do want it to be comfortable when we wear it. I went ahead and already did mine. Just counting my strap rows, I did a total of 12 rows. We do want to make sure that we're ending on a total of odd number of rows, because we want to make sure that we're ending on the inside, so that once we connect it to the other side, we don't have to do a chain up of 1 and cut. We can just work straight into it. So like I said, I did a total of just 12 of these strap rows, which was a total of 4.5 inches or 11 centimeters. But once we have that, we can get started on connecting it to the other side. So now that we have the total amount of strap rows that we need, we're now going to connect it into the other side. How we're going to do this is actually take apart our last stitch from that last row, and we're going to combine this last stitch into the piece because of the way that we've been connecting it into the single crochet row so far. So what we're all going to do is yarn over and insert our hook into the last stitch into the strap, making sure it's still within the back loop. Then we're also going to insert our hook into the top corner stitch of the other panel that we have. So go ahead and insert. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through that loop. From here, we should have 1, 2, 3, 4 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over, pull through the first 3 loops to get 2 loops on our hook. Then also insert your hook into that following stitch into the base. Then from here, yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops. Now that is going to count as our last stitch, but also the connection. So just for the following row, we're going to work into that stitch that is connected into the base. So just as a refresher, we are going to work our way up to the following row the same way that we normally do. So slip stitch into the following 2 stitches into the base. There is 1. Into that next stitch, there is 2. Now none of those slip stitches count as a stitch. We're going to flip our work. And now put one back loop half double crochet into every stitch. So we should end up with the same amount of stitches as the previous row. So yarn over into the last stitch from our previous row, which did also connect into the base. Insert with one back loop half double and continue with one back loop half double into every stitch. From here, we're going to continue to repeat our normal back loop slip stitch rows, connecting it into the base the same way that we did when we're working it into the base, making our way all the way down. We don't have any more stitches left to work into. I'll meet you back so we can seam it together. So we've made our way all the way around with our strap and armband. Now what we're going to do from here is seam it up. Now, as you guys can probably tell, I have already went ahead and seamed mine up, but it is going to be done exactly the same way as the sides. So, as a quick refresher, we're going to make sure that our work is slipped wrong side out because we want all of these seams to be along the same side. We're going to do the same single crochet seam that we did for the sides. When we don't have any more stitches, do a chain up one and cut, then repeat everything we did here on the other side. Now we are back. When both of our straps are completed, the next thing we're going to do is our bottom band. So first things first, making sure the work is flipped right side out, we're going to insert our hook into any one of the side seams along the bottom of our piece, and we're going to do a single crochet row. We're going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through and do a chain up of one to secure, and we're just going to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. So getting that started, we're going to start by finding our first side row, and this is mine right here. I'm going to find that top loop and insert with a single crochet. This is my next top loop. Find that insert in through there with 2 singles. Let's do this again. This is my next top loop, insert with 1. Next top loop, insert with 2. So there's 1, there's my second, and continue doing this, making our way all the way around. Now, just as a really quick tip, the single crochet row is going to be as wide as this portion can stretch. So once when it's completed, try your piece on. If it's too tight, reduce some stitches with a looser grip, or if it's too loose, reduce some stitches with a tighter grip. We are back. We've made our way all the way around with our single crochet row. Now from here, right after we slip stitch into that chain space, we're all going to make a chain the length that we'd like for the bottom band to be. I'd like for mine to be roughly 2 inches or 5 centimeters, so I'm going to start by making a chain 12. Now that we have our chain, we're all going to get started on our first row, so block off that last chain and do a chain 1, and all we're going to do is slip stitch into every chain. So into that chain that we blocked off, for the second chain from our hook, we're going to insert, then yarn over, and gently pull through everything on our hook. And that's it. We're going to continue with 1 slip stitch into every chain. Again, into that next chain, we're going to insert, yarn over, and gently pull through everything. Continue with 1 slip stitch into every chain, making sure that we're not tugging too tightly after every stitch, otherwise the following row will be too tight to work into. We've made our way down, putting 1 slip stitch into every chain. Now we're going to connect it into the base. So how we're going to connect this into the base is find that next available stitch into the base, insert with a slip stitch. Now that slip stitch into the base doesn't actually count as a stitch. Now to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that following stitch into the base. Still doesn't count as a stitch. Flip our work and now put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch. So finding the last stitch from our previous row, not working into any of the slip stitches into the base, insert into that back loop, yarn over, gently pull through everything, and continue with 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch, still remembering not to tug too tightly. At the end of the row, chain 1, flip our work. Put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch, and I'll meet you back at the end of our row 3. We are back and our first 3 rows are complete. Now we're just going to connect it into the base the same way that we just did. So finding that next available stitch into the base, insert with a slip stitch, still doesn't count as a stitch. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that next stitch into the base as well. Also doesn't count as a stitch. Flip our work and put 1 back loop slip stitch into every stitch, and that's it. From here, continue to repeat our 2 previous rows until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. When we don't, I'll meet you back so we can seam it together. We are back. We've just made our way all the way around with our back loop slip stitch rows. Now we're going to seam it together. Now this seam is going to be an outside loop slip stitch seam to make it look like another slip stitch row. So what we're going to do is make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up, then insert our hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel, insert our yarn onto our hook, yarn over, and pull through everything on our hook. Now just to do the first 2 stitches, we're all going to find that first stitch into the front panel and insert only into that front loop, first stitch into the back panel and insert only into that back loop, Then yarn over and pull through everything on our hook. Let's do that again into that next stitch into the front panel, inserting through that front loop. Next stitch into the back panel, insert only into that back loop. Then yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, and that's it. We're going to continue doing this till we don't have any more stitches left to work into, then do a chain of 1 and cut. We are back and our bottom band is complete, and we are all done. Now the last thing we have to do is just weave in all of our ends. There you have it. Hope y'all enjoyed the tutorial. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. Those links are down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch y'all on the next one. Bye!